We,
No.
you got 5, 10, or just 1 minute before we get out.
Okay. Well, that's good. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity of being here in front of this class and to share my testimony. Bless the hearts of each one in here and my heart as well. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, I grew up in an Adventist home, so both of my parents were Adventists, and it was, for me, I sometimes I wonder how, when someone get baptized, converted from other faiths, I always wonder, I always want to ask, how was it? Because I don't have that kind of experience. So, well, but I do have my own, because I believe no one is born converted. Everyone needs to be converted. And there is always a time, there is always, sometimes we even don't know when it happened, but there is a time when you can really say, well, I think that's what happened. What I see in my life, it's God's care in my life. How God has been so caring and guiding me through all steps of my life, and how some events in my life, some people in my life, of course my parents, I owe them what I am, but special moments in my life, I can trace back and see some things I have developed, I have embodied in my life that I can trace back. For example, the first thing I can trace back is like when I was in my first grade, I went to school for the first time. There's a song I learned, and that's was very, very powerful. And always when I have to write this, I cry, because that touched my heart. It was about a little bird in the forest. She had her chicks, and then she sings. Well, she sees a food in the trap, and then she goes down there, and then she's caught in the trap. And then she starts singing that, bye-bye forest where I learned to fly, and bye-bye my chicks that God gave me the forest to fly, but in heaven we are going to have, the heaven. In heaven we are going to fly again. And that made me, from that time on, I always was very, very sorry for the birds, and always, I never got a sling to kill a bird, and any little animals, I was very, very concerned about them. And then I can trace back from that song. I never forgot in my life. And there is a second thing that happened in my life. I was about 5 years old, 5 to 6, and we moved to another area of town where there was a new development, and there was no mango tree. And for us, the Brazilians, mango, especially some areas, maybe in the south, there's no mango tree, right?
I have a little bit.
Yeah, but it's a big thing, mangoes. And there was no mango trees there. And I remember playing by the highway, beside the highway, and with other friends. And there was this man. He was obese, and he used to bring in the mango season in his bicycle a bag full of mangoes. and share with the mangoes with us. And then now when I see my life, I can see, I could relate that I like to share. I like to share whatever I get. I like to share with others. So, and I can trace back from there. And there is a very interesting thing that happened. I remember when I moved to the country with my parents and my two brothers and two nephews. They were small. We used to walk about 3 miles to visit some old ladies and in the country. And always we took something with us, bread, fruits, to share with them. And also there was some people, homeless, it's without home, but landless. Yeah, they were seeking for a piece of land to live. And then I used to go there, and I had a truck, and I used to bring water for them. And I remember in 2006, my nephews, both of them, were grown up already. 2006. And one of them, the oldest, he went to live with his father. And I went there to visit him. It was January. And usually he was working in a club. And he got 2 food baskets. So they usually give him for Christmas. And his grandmother was telling me he got 2 of the food baskets, and one he took home, and the other one he went to a poor area where a friend of him was living, and he took to him. So that's why I thought, my Lord, you see how things go. And that's 2 things that are very remarkable in my life that I could trace back and see how my life was molded, was shaped by these 2 events in my life, in my childhood. And also, I want to share 2 events that happened in my life as well about how God just saved my life. And twice I almost drowned in a river. And one time I was 5 years old. I was playing, my parents were there by the beach. And I was playing in the water, and then there was a hole in the sand in the water, and I fell, and I was drowning. And someone just picked me up, so saved my life. And the other time I was about 12 years old. I was used to go to that river, and it was not a big river, but we used to cross over the river. But that day, I think it had rained on the upstreams, and the water had increased. So I was trying to cross, and I was carried away by the waters. And someone, again, saved my life.
Never learned the lesson.
So, and I can see it, like, how God has taken care of my life. And, when I was about 18 years old, I left the church somehow. And I started working in a pharmacy on Sabbath and so. But I remember always in the Sabbath, there was a voice in my ear saying, "This is not your place, this is not your place." I was not happy. And I used to go to parties, but I was not happy. That there was emptiness in my heart. My heart was missing something. And then there was one day, um, King's Herald, or Herald, King's Herald, right? King's Herald went to sing by somewhere by my house, and I went there and I bought. It was a vinyl, what do you call it, LP?
Oh, yeah.
Recorder.
Yeah.
Recorder. And I bought that. I kept playing and playing over and over, and I sensed the Lord was touching my heart. I used to cry. And there was my father had a bunch of books, Ellen White books, but it was always split apart. And then I started reading the books, but I glued them together, and I started reading them. Desire of Ages, Great Controversy, and the Lord was filling my heart, you know. And one day I decided to, well, before I decided to give up my work, my job, I had a dream. Well, in the morning I was watching its reading on TV. It was Mark Finney. I don't remember the sermon, but it touched my heart. I was crying for the message, you know. And then I got a call from my girlfriend. So, to go to her house. So I went there, and when I got over there, she was not Adventist. They had a pork, barbecue, they had music, they had, you know, alcohol. And it was a contrast. I could feel, you know, the battle inside of me. And somehow it got late. It was far away from home. So they told me to sleep there. And that night I had this dream. I was driving in a road where there was like a cliff in one side and a wall on the other side, just the road. And then police officer stopped me, and I couldn't find a place. So until I finally found a place, but a friend of mine was on my side, but he just disappeared. Everybody disappeared. I was left alone. So there was a very nice place, very flat area, and all the way in the back there was a range of mountain, and on the back, behind the mountains, was the city of São Paulo. And it was gorgeous, the site, and there was a hut, and a stone behind, a huge stone. I stood and I started to look at the scene, and suddenly from the mountain started coming out like rocks, huge rocks, throwing, invisible hand throwing the rocks on the buildings and destroying everything. I got desperate. I ran to find refuge in the hut. When I got close to the hut, so a huge stone just fell on the hut and smashed it down. And I just fell on my knees and asked, Lord, have mercy on me. Have mercy. And then I realized God, I was trying to find a refuge in other things except Him. And then I realized that. So I decided to go to accept Him, and we moved to the country. And we left the job. I left the job and moved to the country. And I remember there some days I was so excited in reading especially Desire of Ages. I used to go under the tree, reading my book, and my mother called me to eat. I took my plate in one hand, the fork, and the other hand the book, and the tears coming down from my face. I couldn't stop, you know, reading the book.
1 minute, Gilson.
So after that, I just, somehow one day one of my teacher asked the class what we want to be. I thought I want to be a preacher, but I had no clue how to get. So then I decided when I got baptized, I saw a sign on the wall, the board, in the church, and to canvas and go to school. So So I decided to do that. For 2 years I did that, and then I decided to go to Trinidad and Tobago. So I took all the way from my town, Trinidad and Tobago, by land. 8 days traveling.
Wow.
4 days in the Amazon forest, and then one interesting thing I want to emphasize here. When I got there in the Manaus, the capital of Amazon state, I took the vaccine, the yellow fever vaccine, and I had to wait 10 days before leaving the country. So I decided to, and I had nobody there. I knew nobody there. I decided to go all the way up to Boa Vista, another town. And there, I just went to a church, a school. There was a school attached to it. I just was there, and someone came in, and I started talking, told him where I was coming from, and he said, "Oh, I used to live there in your city 17 years ago." I asked him, "Which church?" He said, "Alvorada." I said, "That was my church." I asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Alderi." I said, "Oh, you know my father." And then he invited me to his house, and he knew my father, and I went to his house. I spent 10 days in his house. So I could see God's care, you know, just...
Yes, sir. We're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
You all walk different roads, huh? It's exciting to hear how the Lord has led in this class and brought us here. I will see you on Monday. And to get full credit, you need to turn a manuscript to me today if you're preaching on Monday. Okay, you turn that manuscript in the day of the class period before you preach.
When do I turn mine?
I don't know, when you preach.
June 28th.
Fabio and Mark, the ones that are turning manuscripts into me today.
Does she need to
All right.
deliver or does she just need to know that?
Thank you all for pushing the buttons on this thing.